You're watching NRATV with Bill Whittle.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hot Mike Show, live from Los Angeles. I'm Bill Whittle. Hot Mike was supposed to be here this morning. Unfortunately, he was doing a country music video shoot, and his horse broke from a trot into a canter, and Mike started screaming, and the horse took off for the Santa Monica Hills. So we have search and rescue on our way out there. We hope to have him back by tomorrow. Today I want to talk about the patriotic culture of country music. I call it kind of the invisible patriotism because it's just always been there. And when I talk frequently about how the left controls, movies and television and music and so on, I always say music, and I always think about pop music, but country music has been such a solid part of America's history for so long. It, frankly, just is like the air. It's almost invisible, at least to me anyway. So, as I said, the left, as we know, has for decades now owned pretty much everything. Movies, late-night comedy, talk shows, television. They own, politics. They own the news media, and so on and so on and so on. But there are three places left in America where conservative voices not only can be heard, but actually, I would say, still predominate. First one's talk radio, of course, and talk radio's interesting because I was asked why. I once asked a talk radio host about why talk radio worked for conservatives and didn't work for liberals. There's been a lot of attempts to make talk radio work for liberals with Air America and so on. And he said it's primarily two reasons. First of all, you have to be able to talk back to the host and argue, which means most liberals are not really very good at that. But he said the main reason is talk radio is a medium for your car. It's what you sit in and listen to in traffic on the way to and from work, and he thinks more conservatives are working than liberals. He's probably right about that. A second place where the pop culture is not completely left-wing is, strangely enough, video games. There's some very, very left-wing video game themes, but the fact of the matter remains that massive titles like Call of Duty, for example, huge titles, much bigger budgets than many movies nowadays, are about American soldiers, and they're about patriotism, and they're about teamwork, and those still, I think, ring a lot of patriotic bells in young Americans' minds. And as I say, the invisible patriotism of country music, which sits over this great nation just like a warm summer breeze. It's always been there, and I suspect it always will. Out here in California, where we don't get to hear too much about anything positive, anything that stands out, anything pro-American just leaps out at me, really. It's really that bad out here. And about a week ago or so, I was driving into work in the morning to do my call-in for Grant Stinchfield show. And I got a chance to hear a song I hadn't heard. It was on the 70s greatest hits, or maybe early 80s. In any event, I hadn't heard it in 25 years. And it just made me feel so good because it was playing in the University of Florida in 1980 when I was there. And we forget how bad this country was, the kind of trouble we were in 1979, early 1980, with the hostage crisis and Jimmy Carter and Desert One failure and gas and oil, and it really felt like we were about done. And then along came Ronald Reagan. But on the way in, I heard a little bit of a song, as I say, I haven't heard for almost 25, 30 years, maybe longer. And it's a song that Charlie Daniels did right at that period. I remember hearing it in college. They played it during the football games, made everybody feel real good. And here's just a little clip from that song.
This is called In America. Well, the eagle's been flying slow, and the flag's been flying low, and there's a lot of people saying that America's fixing to fall. But speaking just for me and some people from Tennessee, we've got a thing or two to tell you all. Now this lady may have stumbled, but she ain't never failed. If our enemies don't believe that, they can all go straight to hell. We're gonna put her feet back on the paths of righteousness, and then God God bless America again. And you never did think that it ever would happen again. In the neighborhood get you never did think that it'd ever get together again. But we dang sure fooled you, we're walking real proud and we're talking real loud again. Here in America, you never did think that it ever would happen again.
Well, we damn sure fooled you, that's right. This lady may have stumbled, but she ain't never fell, and if the Russians don't believe us, they can all go straight to hell. He changed that to if our enemies don't believe us, because Russians are most likely our friends now and fighting the same fight that we're fighting. We're going to come back to that in a minute because we have a very special guest today. And, of course, when we're talking about patriotic country songs, the one that just still brings a lump to my throat, and I'm sure yours as well. I don't think anybody can really hear this song in a group of people without getting a little teary. And needless to say, that's Lee Greenwood's classic, God Bless the USA. Here's just a couple of moments from that.
I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stay.
I've seen entire audiences groups of hundreds and hundreds of people, grown men, tough men, with tears in their eyes listening to that song. And then, as I said, it was a week ago, I was going to do the Grant Stinchfield morning show, and I heard the Charlie Daniels song, and they were telling me that they saw a concert with the Gatlin Brothers, and they were asking how we were doing. It turns out they're big fans of NRATV, and I'd met them several years ago out here in California. And I just went looking for them because I know how patriotic they are, and I know they come from that exact same kind of bedrock of Americanism. So here's what we're going to do. We've got a Gatlin brother, a mystery Gatlin brother is with us here, but before we bring him in, we're going to play their song, American with a Remington, and then what I'd like to do is talk to one of these Gatlin brothers about that song line by line. I think that'd be a really interesting thing to do. So let's play American with a Remington by the Gatlin Brothers, and then we'll bring in our guest.
You gutless, worthless coward, you say I must convert or die. Well, you're gonna have to kill me, at least you're gonna have to try. Do Lexington and Concord mean anything to you? How about Bunker Hill, or San Juan Hill, or the island of Peleliu? You're not the first who's ever tried to kill me. In peace, as you come back to my family, you'll be staring down the barrel of my gun, 'cause I'm an American, with a Remington. My daddy's Remington to help me put food on our table. When he came home war disabled, like him I've heard the call, and I'm willing to give my all. Right here, right now, I take my stand. You're not the first who's ever tried to kill me. What makes you think that I would turn and run? Underestimate these United States and the righteous might of the people who stand up as one. We exist to fan the flame of freedom. We fought and bled and died before we come. I just want to live in peace as you come back to my family. You'll be staring down the barrel of my gun, 'cause I'm an American, with a Remington. Yours truly, an American, with a Remington.
Now, I am not entirely sure that you're going to find another TV station anywhere out there that's going to talk about an American with a Remington, but NRATV, boy, you want to talk about right up our alley. So we have a 1 in 3 chance, and then we'll spin the giant wheel of destiny, and it turns out it's our friend Rudy. Rudy Gatlin's with us today. Rudy, it's great to see you again. We were talking off the air just before we got on. We were talking about Charlie Daniels and the Lee Greenwood song, and you're such a country music legend. You said you were there for great moments for both of those tunes.
Yes, we were at the Grammys in 1980. Charlie had broken his arm, so he couldn't play fiddle, but they went ahead and did that song. And right at the end, or right at the start, I forget when, they dropped that American flag down when he was doing, and Russia or whatever, you can go straight to hell. And the crowd, as best I can remember, went nuts. Because that was when we were having all that trouble with Russia and the Olympics and all that stuff. And man, America was kind of united there. And in that room, the Grammys, with all those different music cultures and just cultures, period, they went nuts. They absolutely went nuts.
Hold on one second there before we get to the. But hang on one second, Rudy, because this is kind of one of the points I want to make. When that flag came down in 1980, and the red, white, and blue was there, and it's this is the thing I like most about this music, about your music, about all of it. I like the defiance of it. I like the rebellion of it. I like the fact that it's not in your face, walking around telling everybody what we're going to do, but it's this, you know what, we will take a certain amount, and that's all we're going to take. And I remember thinking that finally, here's somebody standing up for the things that I believe in a culture that never shows them anymore, and I'll bet it brought the house down. I'll bet it absolutely did.
Yeah, it's a great song. They played it great. They sang it great. And at that time, everybody, like I said, I believe there was more unification. It was kind of like after 9/11. It's after a 9/11 event. People were, for I don't know how long, for a while, we were united. Let's go get the bad guys. They can't do this to us. They shouldn't do this to us. We're not going to take this. And other events that have through our history, Pearl Harbor, any number of events, and we get united for a while, and we most certainly were that night. We sure were. Oh.
So tell us real quick about the Lee Greenwood moment.
Well, we sang on the original version of that song with Lee. Our good friend and producer, Lee's record producer, Jerry Crutchfield, called us and said, "Hey, come on over here. Got something I want y'all to sing on." And we were so very honored. We didn't know what it was going to do, but it is. And we've done it with Lee on a couple of occasions through the years, a couple of campaign stops for various presidents and a couple of rallies, and he still does it. And it's a great song, a great record. It still unites us. We're so very honored to be on that original version.
That's tremendous. That's absolutely tremendous. So, Rudy, like I said, I took a look at the lyrics for American with a Remington, and I like every single thing in it. And I think every single line is a little story. And so if it's all right with you, I'd like to just kind of break it down a little bit and just sort of play it out a bit. So the very first words of that song are, "You gutless, worthless cowards." Now, I know who you're talking about, and you know who you're talking about, but a lot of people out here in California have no idea who you're talking about. Who are you talking about when you say "you gutless, worthless cowards"?
When Larry and Billy Dean wrote this song, in fact, Billy Dean's son came to him who had just toured a Remington factory somewhere. And he said, "Dad, I got an idea for a song. Write it. American, Remington." And Billy ran into Larry and said, "Hey, my son came up with this idea for a song." And they got together and wrote it. And about that time, when this was written a couple of years ago, if we remember correctly, they didn't show it on TV or too many. I don't think they showed it. It was our guys in the orange jumpsuits and the guys in black behind them with the knives.
Yep.
That was what I knew
it. I knew it.
Absolutely. And Larry and Billy, we just called them out. I can't remember the.
Yep.
Yeah, those were the original. "You gutless, worthless cowards." It was pointed directly at those guys, cutting our guys' heads off. Whew.
That was exactly the words I used on those guys. It's funny how that works. The second I saw those guys standing over these bound prisoners in orange jumpsuits, cutting their throats, I said, "You gutless, worthless cowards. So I'm with you on that one, brother. You say I must convert or die. Yeah, well, they've had to kill a few people, and they're not finished yet. But here's where we start to get into some of this American rebellion that I like so much. The next two lines are, well, you're going to have to kill me, or at least you're going to have to try. Going to have to try. You're not going to just lie down and take this, right? We're not going to just sit there and take a knee and show our throat to these savages.
No. Another line kind of along those same lines is, I don't think you ought to try. But that line works too. No, we're not going to let them. I don't want to kill anybody that doesn't agree with me. And I feel for them. I just, you can worship any way you want to, but I just don't like it when someone says, well, you don't worship the way I do and believe it the way I do. I'm going to kill you. I have a little problem with that. Not going to take that line down.
And it's funny how the left doesn't seem to have a problem with that at all, and all of the mutilation of women and the throwing homosexuals off of buildings and all the rest of these things that every civilized, decent human being on the earth is against. Funny how the progressives pretty quiet about that. So the next paragraph here is just a good little run of history, and I'll tell you what I like about this next paragraph, Rudy. Do Lexington and Concord mean anything to you? How about Bunker Hill, San Juan Hill, or the island of Peleliu? That battle, Peleliu is one of the most horrible battles of the Pacific, and it's the one that didn't get any recognition at all, because largely they were saying it probably didn't need to be fought. It was badly managed. It was a meat grinder. And I was honored to have a chance to interview a guy who was lead Higgins boat going into the beach, and he had to go in 4 or 5 times. Peleliu was where we got the tides wrong, and instead of being able to drop these guys at the beach, they had to wade through damn near 1,000 yards of waist-high water with the machine guns all zeroed in from the Japanese. And talking to this guy who was the Higgins boat captain, I said, you knew what was there. You went in with the first wave. You went back with the second wave, and here are these fresh-faced kids coming down the nets, and you know what's in store for them, but they don't know. And he said, "Yeah, I felt like Charon. I felt like I was the guy who took people across the river of death." And I thought, my God, that just makes my blood run cold.
If it had been a year, if my dad would have been a year older, he would have been right there. We are the proud sons of Curly Gatlin, 1st Marine Division, 3rd Amphib Corps. Hoorah. He went over on the Wakefield in September of 45. He was in line to go, as most of those guys were already going to go to Okinawa and then mainland Japanese invasion. He was in line to go to Okinawa, and he went, and now that the war was over, it ended in August, he still went over in September of 45. In September of 44 is when they hit those beaches of Peleliu. If he's 1 year older, he's in that battle.
Yeah, and same thing for my father, who got to the European theater during the last week of the war. He lied about his age to get in, but they caught him, so he didn't get there till April of 45. But I'm sure, just exactly like your father, I know my father didn't expect to come home, because he knew that when the battle in Europe was over, he was going to go in for the Japanese invasion. We're going to take 1 million killed in that before we drop the atomic bombs, which put an end to that war. We got to take a real quick break. We're going to come back with our good friend of the NRA, certainly one of the great Americans, Rudy Gatlin, right here on the Hot Mic Show here on NRATV.